Hello and welcome back to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2024-25 season. My name is Dan, and game week 22 isn't quite done yet. We've got one more game, Chelsea versus Wolves tomorrow evening, but it's not too late for some early thoughts. Now, I'm not wearing a football shirt today, but does this count? Like, it's a Paris Saint-Germain hoodie. I just want to, it's a cold day. I want to be cozy on a day like today. But what I want to do is talk about a few things. A few players, obviously, blanking. A few other players doing really well. And I honestly don't know if I've had a disaster game week or not. So maybe you guys can help me out. I want to hear from you guys how many points you are on in FPL and how many players do you have left to play? Who do you have left to play as well? Because right now I'm sitting here on 39 points. I think we're going to get some bonus points for Chris Wood, of course. But I can't really tell if this week is a disaster. It certainly looks like a disaster. Raya, Gabriel, 1-pointers, blanks from Gordon, Sarr, Salah, and Isak. Hall with 4 points doesn't even really feel like a return, but I guess it is. He did get that assist from the corner. And yes, we did have some very nice returns from Trent with his 11-pointer and Wood as well, very nice. But with captain blank and only Jackson and Palmer left to play, Castagna and Kirkes on my bench there with the points. Is 39 points terrible? Or is it okay? It feels like it's a disaster. But actually, you know, looking round the grounds, it seems like a lot of people kind of have pretty low points as well. And I'm seeing in the chat, we're seeing people with points in the 30s there as well. 32 points, 35 points, 40 points. A lot of people only have Palmer left to play as well. So I think genuinely anyone with 50 points or more, maybe that's actually, maybe 50 points or more is actually a good game week. Maybe that's actually not so bad. So yeah, I think some people will be pretty disappointed this week. And I think it does depend if you had a Mateta in your team, you're flying. Like, congratulations. Obviously, that's really, really good. If you have Bruno Fernandes as one of your midfielders, that's going to be really useful as well. But kind of looking through a lot of the players that scored a lot of points this week, they're not like super high-owned players. So we go to the top 5 players on this list. Kluivert, Foden, Mateta, De Bruyne, Smith Rowe. These are all under 10% owned. Most of them are under 5% owned. So it seems like a real week for differentials. I mean, even going lower than that. Beyond Trent here, we've got Darwin, Doku, Kovacic, Trossard, Mitoma, Minter, Alisson, Bruno Guimaraes. Everyone has Wood anyway. Watkins, Gay, Idrissa Gana Gay. Robinson there, I suppose, that a lot of people have. But genuinely, it was a week of high-scoring differentials. So a lot of differentials did well. But a lot of the main players, I guess, that people have seem to have blanked this week. So a lot of blanks. And yeah, really not too many popular players went off. Really, Trent, Wood, and I suppose Robinson. Out of the big, super popular players, the only players who really did anything crazy. But there we go. We've got lots to talk about because I think I want to have a look at some of the players who have scored really well this week, namely Kluivert and the Man City players. I want to go over some chip strategy stuff as well. And we'll talk about captaincy. I think we'll go nice and early on a captain poll right now, and then we'll gather that. You guys can start voting in the captain poll, and we'll see where your head is at right now for the game week 23 captain. And then, of course, we'll answer some questions and stuff, and maybe go over some topics that you guys want to talk about as well. So make sure you get your questions ready. So first of all, I'm going to put a poll. Who is your game week 23 captain? And we'll put in, let's just get the fixtures up to make sure I've got the home and aways right here. So we've got Salah versus Ipswich. And that is at home. We've got Isak versus Southampton, which is away. And I'm going to should I throw in Palmer? Who's like a third captain option for this week? I'm not sure. Usually it's like Palmer or someone, isn't it? But maybe against City away, it's not going to be the case. Let's go predicted points on the Hub website for Game Week 23. See if there's any other good suggestions here. Haaland against Chelsea, Watkins. It really is just a battle between two players this week, isn't it? All right, we'll just go Salah versus Ipswich, Isak versus Southampton, and I'll put other. So we'll just have 3 options today. And see where you guys' heads at. So let me just tell you what my thoughts are for captains, or what my thought process has been so far. So when we had the Forest versus Southampton game, and we saw just how bad Southampton are all over again. You know, Chris Wood with 2 returns, and it's very rare that Chris Wood can get 2 returns in one game. Very rare. That's the 3rd time he's done that this season. He's not usually a multiple return team. And we've kind of seen in recent game weeks, we've seen some players get some incredible scores against Southampton. And so I was immediately thinking, yeah, Isak against this Southampton team is surely going to cook. Surely. And then it came to the final game of the evening. And we saw Man City, a supposedly out of form Man City team, dominate Ipswich 6-0 away from home. And suddenly it's just like, okay, what was I thinking? Surely this is the week for Salah. And it seems that so far the votes in the poll are reflecting that strong opinion towards Salah versus Ipswich. I think having seen Ipswich lose 6-0 against City, it makes the decision a little easier, doesn't it? So let's see. I think Isak versus Southampton is still very tempting if you did want to go different. But right now I'm struggling to look past Salah. So I've got my captain's armband on Salah, my vice captain on Ipswich. And I think that's probably where I'll end up sticking, to be fair. Right, so let's start off with some of these crazy scoring players. Let's start talking about them. So first of all, let's do the Foden and I suppose City players. We've got De Bruyne in here as well, scored very well. We're expecting bonus points to come for each of these guys. I think the big problem with Phil Foden is that if you picked him up 4 game weeks ago, amazing, perfect. It was a huge punt because Foden really wasn't showing too much form. And it was risky to go for Foden. But since then, he has been doing really well. Really looks back to his best, which is really good to have an extra FPL option. It's always nice. You know, we've been stuck on these, since Saka's been injured, we've been stuck on these Salah Palmer drafts. And really, some people might have Haaland, some people might have De Bruyne, some people might have Son, but really the vast majority of FPL managers will be stuck with Salah and Palmer as their only premium players. You can maybe throw Bruno in there in that category if you want to. You can maybe throw in Isak, but you guys know what I mean by those premium players. And Phil Foden was one of them at the start of the season. He's now down to 9.2 million, started the season at 9.5, and he's doing really well. But I think the problem is with Foden is you may have missed the boat on this one. Because looking at these next fixtures, Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle, Liverpool, and even Spurs, who famously do well against City, and Nottingham Forest after that, this run of 6 fixtures is pretty much the worst run you can get. It's an awful run of fixtures. After that, I think we definitely revisit the Man City conversation. From Game Week 29, we know Man City won't be blanking in Game Week 29. So from Game Week 29, it could be that then is the time to invest in those Man City players. Hopefully Foden is still keeping up that form, or at least somewhat. We might have a look at Haaland, Savinho. But I think in general, despite some amazing returns from Foden, it's difficult to say that Foden can do as well against Leicester, West Ham, Brentford and Ipswich. Can he do as well as he did in those games against Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle, Liverpool, Spurs, Forest? And I think the answer for me is no. And I think actually looking at the fixtures, yes, you would imagine that Man City can get some wins in this run. Of course. Particularly if they are back to their best, which I think is a little bit premature to say, given that they have had such favourable fixtures recently. But is there enough upside here? Are we going to see the team scoring 3, 4, 5, 6 goals in a game to get those mega hauls? Probably not. Against Chelsea, I don't mind that fixture right now. I don't really trust Chelsea defensively. I definitely back Man City to score a couple of goals. But against Arsenal, that's going to be a low-scoring one. I would imagine the same against Newcastle. Liverpool, there's always potential for that game to be a bit of a thriller. Certainly under Jurgen Klopp, that game was a thrilling game. But I don't know if that'll be the same this year. Spurs, maybe. Forest, probably not. So I don't know if there's enough upside in this run of fixtures, particularly when we look at some other options. So in general, I would argue that maybe Foden, if you have him, you probably keep him for one more week against Chelsea and then actually consider moving him on. And therefore, it's very difficult to recommend him or any of his Man City colleagues as a buy this week. The fixtures just are not there at all. They're really not. So, no, I wouldn't sell Foden if you have him against Chelsea, but away against Arsenal in 24, I would be more tempted. Certainly. Particularly if you're looking to buy some more Liverpool players for double game week 24. If you have someone like Foden or any other Man City player who is quite expensive, that could actually enable you to fund some moves for some more Liverpool players, get your triple Liverpool in place. So that's my spiel on Foden and Man City players generally. Kluivert is a super interesting one. 3 goals from 0.22 XG, 1 assist from 0.11 XA. I actually did watch that game in full and have gone back and watched the highlights as well. He scored some incredible goals in that game, it has to be said, like crazy. And certainly you could see he was playing with confidence in that game, and that did continue on. When you are playing well and you are scoring these wonder goals, you do take on those additional shots, and you have that confidence that these things will come off. We've seen that a lot with Cunha this season, who doesn't necessarily get a lot of XG, but will have that confidence to continue delivering, taking those shots on that maybe a player out of form, out of confidence wouldn't take on, and just feeling good about it. And I wonder if Kluivert can continue the form that he showed against Newcastle, because really outside of that Newcastle game, I think it might be 1 goal from open play prior to the Newcastle game. All of his returns really have been penalties, and I'm not really sure we can rely upon Kluivert to regularly get penalties. I mean, yes, it's happened so far, and that's great, but just because Bournemouth and Kluivert has had a lot of penalties so far this season, I don't think that's necessarily something we can predict going forward. And also, Kluivert is always a minutes risk, and we see this with Iraola, the Bournemouth manager. He makes those early subs. Comes to 60, 70 minutes, he's making changes. And right now, given that there are so few options on the bench, I think that's good for Kluivert's minutes in the near future. But you expect Bournemouth to sign players, you expect players to return from injury as well. The problem then, and we go back to the same thing we were talking about with Foden, is the fixtures. Forest, Liverpool are the next 2. These are horrible fixtures. We know this. We know these are 2 fixtures when you're not necessarily going to get too many goals in these games. Particularly if you are relying on penalties, that means you need to spend a lot of time in the opposition's box to get those penalties, to win those penalties. And Forest and Liverpool, you'll struggle to get in their box, let alone get fouled in the box for those penalties. So I think it's going to be difficult to get returns from someone like Kluivert in the next 2 game weeks. However, even if you just got 1 return, maybe, or just looked good, or was taking more shots on, was getting in more dangerous areas, and you could see the confidence was still there. If that were to happen in the next 2 game weeks, then certainly by game week 25, Southampton, we know by this point, this is the fixture to target. If you have an FPL asset against Southampton, particularly those attacking assets, you're going to have that potential to get those mega scores. So I certainly think that is a possibility. To get a mega score from a Kluivert, potentially, against Southampton. After that, Wolves, Brighton, Spurs, Brentford, Ipswich, West Ham, and even Fulham at home. I like all of these fixtures. All of them. So I think Kluivert is, yes, done really well in game week 22, but I think he's going to have to be another player that we have to give a couple more game weeks before jumping in on. not super keen on jumping in on him immediately now. So those are those two players. The next thing I wanted to talk about is Arsenal, and particularly Arsenal's defence. Oh, I'm an Arsenal fan. I'm a pretty miserable Arsenal fan right now, and you can probably understand why. It's just a lot of disappointment at the moment, and we are conceding goals, and I don't think we're in the best form generally at the moment. And I do wonder if we need to start thinking about selling those Arsenal defensive assets. I don't think this is knee-jerk, by the way, because I think particularly on the buy, sell, keep, avoid videos, I have sort of mentioned that if you are doubled up on Arsenal's defence and you have another defender you'd quite like to go for, then I think in the last 3-4 game weeks, it has been a good time to sell your second Arsenal defender. I still think Arsenal generally are a good enough defence that you would probably want one Arsenal defensive asset. So let's just order these teams by non-penalty expected goals against. And we'll go... I know we're going to have to take this with some nuance because there's different teams have played different amount of games. We go last 10 game weeks, Arsenal still do sit top of the table for non-penalty expected goals against. But actually, if we tighten this up and look over the last 5 game weeks, it's actually Liverpool who have been putting up the slightly better defensive data than Arsenal. And maybe that's fixture related, but honestly, I don't know that it is. Arsenal have played Villa, Spurs, Brighton, Brentford, Ipswich in the last 4. I think that is a reasonable... Actually, let's just go goalkeepers so we can have a look at the individual... let's get total points. Look at the individuals here. Arsenal don't concede too many chances, but they they concede that odd chance and a goal will be conceded from it. Aston Villa did generate chances, maybe not all low quality and not all high quality, sorry. And, I think if we go 10 game weeks, we're seeing like this Everton game as an outlier. We're seeing Ipswich as an outlier for these super low XGC games. But I am losing faith and I'm losing trust in Arsenal right now. And yes, they face Wolves next, which I think is okay to keep those Arsenal defenders. And generally, there's Leicester here, West Ham, even Forest and Man United. I don't see these as teams who score a huge amount of goals or generate a huge amount of chances. Really, there's not really a run of bad fixtures in here for Arsenal. So I think if you have other issues in your team, I think it's okay to keep double Arsenal defence. But if you're like me and you're looking for a third Liverpool player, and you think you prefer the Liverpool defenders rather than the attackers, and some of you guys are going to prefer a Gakpo or a Luis Diaz for your third Liverpool player. Hopefully, you guys are going to be looking at, well, obviously you're already going to have Salah. Hopefully, you'll be looking at Trent if you don't have him already. Maybe that's a route you can go through. You could go for Konate potentially as well, or you could go for Alisson. And I think that's the route that I'm looking at taking, to be honest, for a transfer that I may even make this week. Because this week we've got Raya away against Wolves. And, speaking of Arsenal conceding low XG but still managing to concede, Mr. Cunha is the king of low XG and still managing to score. You can maybe throw Wood in that category as well, but I think Cunha is the true king of that. And we have Ipswich at home for Alisson, and that would get me my triple up on Liverpool, ready for game week 24, where Liverpool face Bournemouth away and Everton away, which I think favours defenders more than it favours attackers. I think Bournemouth will take plenty of shots, which could lead to save points as well. I think Ipswich at home is a better fixture for Liverpool than Wolves away is for Arsenal. And even in game week 25, let's find Gabriel. Game week 25, Leicester away or Wolves at home. I think it's similar. We also have the case of Game Week 29, and I'll bring up this graphic here. We have the case of Game Week 29, and I spoke about this before, but I'll mention it again. One of the reasons I like Alisson is because I I think basically if Liverpool managed to overturn the 1-0 deficit in the League Cup against Spurs, then Liverpool reach the League Cup final. I think that probably will happen because I do trust Liverpool far more than Spurs right now, and I think today has only backed that up more. I think Liverpool are odds-on favourites to beat Spurs and go to the League Cup final, and if they do, they'll be blanking in game week 29. And I think it's beneficial to have your third Liverpool player as a goalkeeper, because it allows you to bench Alisson in this instance and play Fabianski against Everton in game week 29. And I really kind of like that as a little strat. I think it saves me a bit of headaches, particularly for me as someone who is going to try and navigate game week 29 without the use of any chips. I'm still open to maybe wildcarding in game week 30. But in an ideal world, I think I would save all my chips for later on in the season. We'd go assistant manager from game week 31 to 33. Game week 34 would be a free hit. Then I would wild card in game week 35 into a bench boost in 36. And if I'm wildcarding in 35, that will give me the added benefit of being able to dead end my team into game week 33. Load up on those double game week players from game week 33, full game week 33. And really just go crazy with it and make sure my starting 11 and obviously my assistant manager has plenty of beautiful, wonderful, magical fixtures. So that is my current plan around chips and around how I'm going to get triple Liverpool into my team. The next question is, what about Everton? Because I've also been toying with the idea of maybe doing I won't do this week because I don't think there's any real need to do it this week away against Brighton. But if I was to get an Everton player, I think for me it would be Mikalenko instead of Castagna for the double against Leicester and Liverpool. But I don't know if it's worth a transfer, particularly as I'd probably be looking to take him back out later on. So I don't know if that's worthwhile. I don't know if that's worth a transfer. Particularly as I do want to save my transfers to try and navigate game week 29 as effectively as possible. So we'll see what happens there. I'm still kind of hoping that Arsenal beat Newcastle in the League Cup semi-final, which would be a surprise, don't get me wrong. But if that were to happen, that would make my life a lot easier, and I would find it a lot easier to navigate game week 29, because that would mean that I would have Gabriel, Palmer and Jackson blanking, and I think I would be able to more comfortably sell players like Jackson than I would sell players like Isak, Gordon, Hall around game week 29. Super chat from Sid Vicious says, plan Gvardiol and Jackson for Trent and Gakpo for free. Thoughts? Yeah, I like it. I like that move a lot. I like that. I think, a lot of people will be targeting Liverpool players for game week 24, and given that they play Ipswich at home next, you may as well go 1 week early with it, get that third Liverpool player in. And if you only have one Liverpool player, and it looks like that's your situation, Sid, based on the fact that you're transferring in 2 Liverpool players now or thinking about it, get it done. Get it done. Jake says, what does dead end my team mean? What I mean by dead ending is making moves in your team knowing that anything that happens after a certain game week doesn't matter. You go to a dead end. You take your team in a direction and there's a dead end there. And for me, if I was to do the game week 35 wildcard strategy, then in game week 33, I would be making transfers with no vision for the future whatsoever. So I'd be purely focused on game week 33. Everything after that would be meaningless for me because I'd be free hitting in 34 and wildcarding in 35. So I'm just bringing my team to that dead end of game week 33, knowing that I can escape from that dead end using the free hit and the wild card. So that's what I mean by that. And that's a very popular strategy in FPL because it allows you to hyper-focus on an important game week. And double game weeks are important game weeks. So we can hyper-focus on that without any worries about the repercussions of the future. So that's a very popular strategy. Really, if you plan to wildcard in a certain game week and you are dead set on wildcarding in that certain game week, then you can dead end your team into the game week prior to that, because you know you've got that get out of jail free card with the wild card. So that's what I mean by that. And yeah, hopefully that explains that. You know when you're a proper nerd in a topic and you just assume that everyone else knows all the nerdy terminology. I do apologise for that. I'll try and do a better job of explaining that in future. So yeah, I appreciate that feedback. I really do. Ben Tecker says, do you prefer Alisson or Gakpo as a third Liverpool asset? Depends on your strat. It depends on your strategy. If you are really set on navigating game week 29 without the use of a free hit, then I would say Alisson has benefits that other players don't. I do still like Gakpo as a third Liverpool asset. And for me, it would be between Alisson and Gakpo, because I like Alisson as a goalkeeper. But basically, I think we're looking at Salah and Trent, no matter what. I think you've got to get have Salah and Trent in your team, arguably by the game week 23 deadline, because I'd like to have Trent against Ipswich as well. So make sure that is done. You guys are going to have Salah already. If you haven't got Trent, I would make it happen for game week 24, for game week 23. If you have already got those guys, or maybe you've got an additional transfer, I would get your third guy in now as well. And it would be between Alisson and Gakpo. And I think that's also going to depend on who you currently have in your team. If you've got a Matt Sells in your team, for example, right now, you're probably not looking at making a goalkeeper transfer. You're going to like Sells. And honestly, looking through the goalkeepers, I think outside of Sells, there's very few other players I would say this about. If you have Sells, then you stick with him. Outside of that, like, who has actually been keeping plenty of clean sheets recently? No one, really. So, I think it is a case of, if you have Sells, you maybe go for Gakpo. If you don't, maybe you go for Alisson. But it's also going to depend on what forwards you have. Let's load up the forward data recently. So if you have Isak and Wood as two of your forwards, you're not going to sell either of those. There's no way anyone sells Isak and Wood right now. Not a chance. However, if you have some of the, everyone has that third forward slot. If you can afford to move that third forward slot to a Gakpo, then maybe you would do that. But again, that's going to depend on who you have. So let's go per start. We'll hide low minutes players. We'll order by expected goal involvements here. We'll go past 6 game weeks data, which would be game week 17 onwards. And we're going to have players like Mateta. If you have Mateta in your team, you're probably not going to sell him. So if your front line is Isak, Wood, Mateta, you're probably not going to get Gakpo. If your front line is Isak, Wood, and Jackson, you're maybe thinking, could I move on Jackson? But I think I would wait until at least tomorrow evening's game. If Jackson could get back on the score sheet and can start finding some form and converting the many, many chances that he's getting, then I would be more tempted to keep Jackson. But if it's another blank for Jackson, if he looks off it again, maybe if you're a person who has Sells in goal, you have Jackson up front, you're disappointed with Jackson, then those kind of people, I would maybe make the Gakpo move instead. For sure. Idamis says you could easily transfer Wood, transfer out Wood in game week 24. Don't think I would. If you pardon the pun, I don't think I would. James Bailey says I'm Isak, Wood, Wissa. Wissa's a curious one, because Wissa's bad run of games is now over. If we look at Wissa's fixtures going forward, Palace, Spurs, West Ham, Leicester, even Everton at home, even Aston Villa at home. This is a pretty decent run of fixtures, and I don't think I would be willing to sacrifice Wissa for Gakpo, particularly when you consider the difference in price between the two players. If there's other moving parts, if you've got to downgrade someone else to upgrade Wissa to Gakpo, then I wouldn't be super keen on that move. What other combos? Circuit's got Isak, Wood, Raul. I'd be happy to move Raul to Gakpo. Dean's got Pedro as his third guy. I would be happy to move Pedro to Gakpo as well. But again, players like Pedro and Raul present some problems budget-wise. If you've got the money to do it, then I think I would. I think I would move these kind of guys to Gakpo. It's a nice upgrade, isn't it? But where are you going to find the cash is the question. Because you need the cash for Trent as well, of course. Watkins to Gakpo. I don't know. I'm going to go over this in the buy, sell, keep, avoid video on Tuesday. But I think my mind has changed somewhat on Watkins. I'm less negative on him than I was in last video. And I'll explain why. I will explain why. And what about downgrading a Mad to Mbeumo? Yeah, no, like... downgrading Mbeumo to a Mad, you mean? Yeah. Yeah, like, again, like, are you going to do that? Mbeumo's fixture run is really nice here. And I thought Mbeumo played a good game against Liverpool, was perhaps unlucky not to get something from that game. So, yeah, Mbeumo is a player who I wouldn't be happy to downgrade or sell either. So, yeah, finding the money is going to be tough. You're not going to downgrade any of your Newcastle players. You're not going to downgrade Gordon or Isak this week. They're about to face Southampton. I'm trying to think what other players that you could downgrade in order to upgrade a João Pedro or a Raul to Gakpo. Maybe let me know in the chat, guys, what kind of cash cow players do you have that you could maybe downgrade? I mean, if you had Foden, again, you're probably not going to want to downgrade him. Let's go by price here and kind of have a look here. You're not going to... if you have Haaland, he would be a good downgrade. If you have Son or De Bruyne, I probably would downgrade there. Would I downgrade Bruno? Just scored a penalty. Fixtures coming up aren't too bad for him. I think you can certainly keep him. Ødegaard, Ødegaard I would sell. Havertz, yeah, he's a forward anyway, So yeah, downgrade Foden. Yeah, maybe I would downgrade Foden. But I would maybe just wait until game week 24 to do that. Give Foden one more week against Chelsea. So yeah, maybe Ødegaard could be a downgradable player. If you have like Maddison, maybe. Yeah, if you don't have money in the bank already, it is going to be tough to try and find a downgrade to upgrade a Raul or João Pedro to Gakpo. But I would still try and do it. So yeah, but like I say, it is going to be super situational. Who is the best out of Gakpo and Alisson? The answer is within your own team. I think the answer is there because it is really tight for me for various different reasons. So there's kind of the strategic, there's the budget, there's the, do these fixtures favour attackers more than defenders? Alisson's more nailed long term, but Gakpo is more explosive and can get those mega scores where Alisson perhaps can't. I think genuinely it's just going to have to come down to your squad and what you can do. Sells owners, you're not going for Alisson. People who have Isak, Wood, Mateta, you're not going for Gakpo. So there we go. Right, I am going to stop streaming at 7:30, so in about 19 minutes, because I haven't had dinner yet, and I would like to have dinner before it gets too late. If that's chill with you guys. So I will go now. We'll do some questions for the next 10 minutes. And we'll have a look at some stats and stuff like that. We'll talk about anything you guys want to talk about. So if you've got some interesting questions, I'll be picking out the most interesting questions in the chat, and we'll cover them. Quick note on Forest, by the way. I know some people disappointed with their Forest defenders this game week, and honestly, I don't blame you. I think you probably should be disappointed. Forest, however, are a team that have been overperforming. They're a team with good data, but they're good data, defensive data, this is. They've had good defensive data, but it certainly hasn't been to the level of clean sheets that they've actually accumulated. This is a team, non-penalty expected goals against during the past 5 game weeks, 6.4, and yet they've actually conceded 3. So they've been massively overperforming. It is not massively surprising to me to see a regression to mean a little bit here. But I wouldn't let that put you off Forest defenders going forward. I think they're still going to be good going forward. But I think teams like Arsenal and perhaps Liverpool have been putting up good defensive data just like Forest. but are conceding like these dodgy random goals at times, or conceding from super low XG chances. I think this was just Forest's turn to have a little bit of bad luck, because they have been riding their luck defensively a lot recently, because nothing's really gone against them. They haven't had those crazy deflections until today where the ball's bounced around and ended up in the back of the net. They've not had a random set piece goal conceded until, again, this game week. So yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen to the best defenses. Sometimes you're going to get unlucky. We know and we accept that FPL is largely a game of luck. So let's whiz through some of these questions. We'll take some more time with some of the more interesting ones. KYM says Jackson to Wissa. If you need to free up some money, then yes, I would certainly be waiting to see how he performs against Wolves tomorrow. Music Kiwi says got 4 points from Ina, so I'm not complaining. Really, I mean, I feel disappointed with Hall and his 4-pointer. So I don't know. I'd feel disappointed. What's for dinner, mate? Ugh, no, a non-FPL question. It's gonna be chili con carne tonight. Mrs. FPL Mate is cooking as we speak. She's cooking up a treat. What else we got here? Foden or Alisson? What to buy? I wouldn't be buying Foden at this point. No. Do I upgrade Virgil to Trent? It's an interesting question. I don't know if it's worth doing. So I'm going to say no. I would try and move another one of your defenders to Trent. Even Gabriel, I would consider moving him to Trent. Jacob says, would you say Gakpo is a must-buy for the next 2 game weeks? No, don't think he's a must-buy at all. I think ideally you would have triple Liverpool, but I don't think the third Liverpool player has to be Gakpo at all. Jackson to Woods. Again, wait until tomorrow. I find it difficult to make a judgment on Jackson before he plays tomorrow, because I just feel that Jackson is on the precipice. He's on the border between failure and greatness. So far, it's been a lot of failure, but because he is getting so many chances, taking on so many shots, when he starts converting them, I think he is going to go off. I think he's just going to go from strength to strength, because we know that he can be a phenomenal FPL asset in the right form. We just need to get him into that right form. So right now, any transfer involving selling Jackson, I cannot give a recommendation right now. I like Jackson as a FPL pick generally, so maybe I'm a bit biased there. And I definitely love data, and Jackson is the data guy right now. So there you go. All right, Raya to Alisson. Yes, Raya to Alisson, as I mentioned earlier, is a move I'm contemplating. So certainly something to consider. Downgrade Gabriel to get Gakpo. If you're on double Arsenal defense right now, then yeah. I would, given that Arsenal do still have good defensive data and they do have good fixtures. Remember, it's not like we're selling defenders in a bad run of fixtures. And good fixtures are very important for defenders and for clean sheet potential. Wolves, Leicester, West Ham, Forest, Man United. You've got to think there's 3 clean sheets in there for Arsenal. All right, let's say 2. Let's be more realistic. You've got to say there's 2. And for Gabriel, you probably would say there's an attacking return in there as well. He's a player who will score once in 5 games. So over this period of games, I do expect Arsenal to get a couple of clean sheets, and I expect Gabriel to get a attacking return during this run. So I would try and avoid selling him if possible, and sell your other Arsenal defensive assets, Raya, Saliba, Timber. I think are far easier sells, for example. But there we have it. Assistant manager chip for Game Week 24. I'm not a fan personally. I think if we look at how, do people even know how the assistant manager works? Because I barely do. I can never remember every nuance to it, but I will try and... All right, FPL assistant manager. So let's just get everything on screen, just so I don't get anything wrong here. So, I've mentioned this before. I'm not keen on the assistant manager chip in Game Week 24. Firstly, because I don't like Liverpool's fixtures that much. Because you're going to play it on Liverpool, right? Because you're not going to play it. Are you going to play it on Everton realistically? let's look at Pickford. It would be Leicester, Liverpool, Crystal Palace, Man United. You wouldn't get table bonus on any of those teams, would you, for Everton Premier League table? Let's just have a look at where things are right now. So a team needs to be 5 places above. Is that right? So rank at least 5 places above. So Crystal Palace are 1, 2, 3, 4 places above. Man United are 3 places above. Leicester are below. So Liverpool would be the only team with a table bonus for Everton. So realistically, there's basically no point in using your assistant manager in Game Week 24 on Everton. There's no upside there because they play teams, play teams around them. If you don't get table bonus, then you really want to target teams below you. So Liverpool, on the other hand, Bournemouth away, Wolves away, Everton away, Wolves at home, Man City away. Of course, no table bonus whatsoever for Liverpool. So they're not going to get any of the bonus points. How many wins are we looking at here? 3? Bournemouth, Everton, Wolves, Man City. You'd be happy with 3? You'd definitely give Bournemouth and Man City a chance of drawing or beating Liverpool. You give them a chance at least. So we're looking at 3 wins. So that's going to get you 12 points. No, 18 points. Not bad. Goals scored. How many goals are going to be scored? Bournemouth, Everton, Wolves. These are not... Maybe Wolves at home. Maybe Wolves. It's weird. Wolves have good defensive data, but manage to concede anyway. But Bournemouth and Everton, these are not great. These are not games where you expect Liverpool to score 4 or 5 goals, are they? And as for clean sheets, you're probably not going to get a clean sheet against Bournemouth. Probably not. You might. But the odds will be stacked against you. And Man City, you're not looking at a clean sheet there either. So I think your points potential is somewhat limited with Liverpool. I think it is pretty safe. But for me, I'm targeting these other game weeks, really. I'm targeting game week 33 or 36 for the assistant manager chip. I think given that the assistant manager chip has such high potential... you're looking at 50 points. A good assistant manager chip could gain you 50 points, which is insane, like crazy insane. If you try and take advantage of the table bonus, and something that I did clock is that Spurs. Let's find a Spurs player so we can look at their fixtures. Kinski, why not? Spurs, if they beat Liverpool and go through to the League Cup final, they will be doubling in game week 34. So, therefore, if you played 31 to 33 on Spurs, you would get Southampton and Wolves. So no table bonus against those. Actually, where are Wolves in the table right now? Oh, no, yeah. Why did I even think they were higher? So you're going to get good opportunities against Southampton and Wolves, maybe to get goals, probably not clean sheets, but goals and wins. And then you'll get table bonus, so it'd be 32. So 32, you'd have Wolves. So you get no table bonus, but you get good opportunity. You get Forest and Liverpool win those games or even draw those games, and you get huge table bonus. Remember, a draw for an assistant manager is worth more than a win if you're facing a team that is 5 or more points above you, which is crazy. Or is it the same? It's 8 points for a draw. Additional 5 points. No, so 8 points for a draw, which is worth more than a win. So a win for Spurs in this run, in this imaginary scenario, would be more beneficial than winning for Liverpool. And then when you throw in goals as well, Spurs are a team that scores goals. You're not going to get clean sheet bonuses from Spurs, most likely. Maybe against Wolves. But you're going to get goals from them as well. So this is theoretical at this point. That brings us to game week 34, which is the double game week. Just double check that. Game 33, which is the double game week. So I might go mad. So Southampton, Wolves, Forest. I need to get my head straight here. I'm using too many graphics at the same time. I need to put it all in one, really. So it's 31, 32, and 33. Southampton, Wolves. No table bonus, but you imagine there'll be goals in those games. Could get some decent points. Forest. And the double game week would be against Fulham. And you would also get table bonus against them. So you get a table bonus against Fulham and Forest in game week 33 in this imaginary scenario if Spurs do make the League Cup final. So you get 2 easy games where you can score loads of goals and 2 games against Forest and Fulham, both of which you would get table bonus for draws and wins. That's actually pretty high upside. It's pretty high upside. Salmon Lee says there's a chance of Spurs doubling in 25. Yeah, I've seen other people suggest that. My personal opinion is that the chance of that happening is super, super low. I really can't see that happening. I don't really think it's worth thinking about, to be honest, at this point. Yeah, the chance of that happening is so low that I'm not really considering that. I don't really know why people are making it out to be something that's genuinely pretty likely to happen. It's really not. Strange. But look, I do different research on the fixtures and stuff. I know a lot of people use Ben Krellin and Planet FPL for the fixture predictions. I do all my own stuff, and I think certainly last season I trust my own stuff a little bit more, which is crazy to say. But no, I think I'm pretty good when it comes to fixtures, so I don't think it's going to happen. So yeah, Spurs I think is something I'd be more tempted by. Given their position in the table, fixtures against Forest and Fulham, I think both of these fixtures are games where Spurs can at least get a draw out of, very possibly a win. So I want to keep that option open as well. So to answer the question, it was very long-winded, I know, but no, I'm not particularly keen on a Game Week 24 assistant manager. I am more keen on a Game Week 31 to 33 assistant manager, and that would be on whoever ends up doubling in 33, basically. And we'll see exactly who that is. We'll find out that after the semi-finals. So by Game Week 25 deadline, we'll know who's going to be doubling in 33. And we can start having a serious conversation by that point. That's my plan. I'm going to wait to see what happens after Game Week 24. No assistant manager chip for me in Game Week 24. But if you really want to use it on Liverpool, I think you can get some points from that. I think you can get some points from that. Ange and Amarin both looking to get sacked right now. Yeah, for sure, man. And both of these teams are low down the table. If they get a new manager and a new manager bounce right in time for a double game week, I mean, Man United aren't going to get a double game week in Game Week 33. We know that. That's not possible. But they could get a double game week in 36. In fact, they are. The odds are favouring them to get a double game week in 36 currently. Anyway, here for FPL say with a super chat says 7 Game Week 29 blankers in my team at the moment, 2 free transfers, Jackson to Gakpo. If you really want to, I wait until tomorrow. You've got to wait. You've got to see how Jackson plays tomorrow. You have to. And if he looks bad, then I would make the move. Yeah. But ideally, you're trying to save some transfers as well for Game Week 29, particularly if you have a lot of blankers. But you don't know who's going to be blanking in Game Week 29. We don't know. We don't know. Rev, of course, Moyes is tempting you. Come on. Bias Everton fan. Right, a few more questions. Whilst we do a few more questions, we'll throw on the price prediction changes things for this week. Of course, guys, this is on the Fantasy Football Hub website. You can check it out using the link in the description. But Alisson due to go up tonight, so I've already dropped. I'm so annoyed, man. I'm so annoyed. Raya's going to drop. Alisson's going to go up. I'm going to have to go early on this Raya to Alisson move. I already know it. I'm going to have to do this tonight. How close is Raya to a drop? 2 days. It's close. It's close. And Alisson is looking like he's going to go up tonight. So anyway, Wood is also going to go up tonight, as is Foden. I don't really rate that transfer. Aina as well. Still think he's an option, and Kluivert. So a lot of knee-jerk transfers. A lot of players who scored really well in Game Week 22 are going to go up in price tonight. As for players going down, Cunha, Garnacho, Ward-Prowse, Neto, Areola, Lancashire, Young, Buonanotte, Saliba, Wan-Bissaka. And a few other players will be going up throughout the week. Isak, Hall, Mateta, if you have these kind of guys. Wissa, Sells, Kanate, maybe even Kirkes. Yeah, right. Couple more final questions. What about Gakpo? Is Gakpo due a price rise? No. No, he's not due a price rise. Triple captain, mate. If you still have a triple captain, I would use it on Salah in Game Week 24. That's what I'd do. And any other simple questions? We've got a lot of complicated questions in the chat. And I'm going in 2 minutes, so I don't know if I have time. What about Jackson? He's already had a price drop recently. His next one is due tomorrow. But if he puts off a performance against Wolves, that can change very quickly. Very quickly. Mebor, I would not recommend bench boosting yet. No, I would save your bench boost for a double game week later on in the season. Ahmad or Palmer? For what? They're both good picks. I would always choose to have Palmer. If I could only choose one, I would always choose to have Palmer. Play one of Kirkes, Hall, and Milenkovic. It's an interesting one. I've still not decided which defenders I'm going to start this week, to be honest. That needs to swap round. I mean, honestly, I like all of them, but I'm going to go for Hall. I think Kirkes against Forest could be considered, but there's no point in really betting against yourself if you're a Wood owner, so I'd maybe take that into consideration. Rev says Verbruggen or Flecken to Alisson for a free transfer. Who's more expensive? Just sell the more expensive guy. To be fair, no, I would sell Flecken. I'd sell Flecken. Are Brentford out of the FA Cup? Or Brighton? Because we could even look further forward to who could double later on. Or blank. So Brentford are out, which means Brentford have a guaranteed fixture in Game Week 34. So Flecken has a guaranteed fixture in Game Week 34. Does that impact your decision? But it also means he's guaranteed no double in 36. So I don't know if that helps. Solanke to Gakpo. Yeah, I like that transfer. Ahmad or Rodgers. I like Rodgers from this game week onwards, I think. But I'm a bit of a Man United hater. So there we go. Is Alisson injured? No. When can you play the assistant manager? You can play at any time from Game Week 24 onwards. How many points would you be satisfied with for a bench boost? I think 18 points or more. I would be like, yeah, it's okay. I'm happy enough. 20 points or above is the target though, every year. Who to play, Rodgers or Kluivert? I play Rodgers. If I'm selling Sarr and Jackson, who would you suggest to get? Gakpo, and I don't know if any midfielders are standing out as buys this week, to be fair. But Gordon, if you don't have Gordon against Southampton, that could be nice. Maybe. But I think, honestly, I don't think I would sell Sarr. I'll just, I would wait and see Jackson tomorrow. How many times am I going to have to say that this stream? Wait until tomorrow. Don't rush out Jackson. Wait until tomorrow. But I don't think I would sell Sarr. I don't think there's any good replacements. Well, massive standout replacements. And I think just saving those free transfers and trying to avoid making luxury moves is probably what I would do. Is Foden a hold? Yes, for one more game week. Is Pedro a keep? Maybe. Maybe it depends who else you're looking at. I mean, João Pedro in general is a bench rotation player anyway. So if you can bench him for those tougher game weeks and play like a Rodgers or an Ahmad instead of him, then that's absolutely fine. Florian Pet Shop says, can you say my name? You'll make my day. Florian Pet Shop. There you go, my friend. What is the next football shirt you're going to buy next? I haven't decided. I've got a voucher, actually, I was given for Christmas. I cannot decide what football shirt to get. So if anyone's got any suggestions in the comments section, anyone watching this back, do let me know if you've got any suggestions of football shirts I can buy next, because I am on the market. But anyway, guys, my dinner is just about ready, so I am going to have to go. But I really appreciate you guys joining me today. If you are watching the live stream or watching this as a replay, I would massively appreciate you dropping a like on the video. It does help more than you guys know. It really does help out the channel so much when you do leave a like. So shout out to those guys who like the video every week. If you don't usually do it, I would appreciate it, guys. No pressure, but you're a legend if you do. And yeah, subscribe, of course, if you haven't done already. I don't think I'm going to do a video tomorrow because I've got to do a load of stuff for the podcast, which is being recorded tomorrow evening. That will go out on Tuesday, as will Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid. So I suppose I will next see you on Tuesday for the podcast, Stick to FPL. Check it out if you haven't done already. And the Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid video, which I'm loving, you guys are loving. Everyone's loving Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid at the moment. I can't believe it. Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid is back at the top of his game. But there you go, guys. Appreciate you guys. Enjoy the final game tomorrow, particularly Jackson owners. I stand with you in hoping for a big haul. And yeah, we'll see you guys again on Tuesday. See you later, mates. Goodbye.